All right, what's going on, everyone? Grace and peace. It's your boy E here. Hope everyone is doing well. I'm making this video because I want to do a video response to a dear brother in the Lord um, who posted a video on his YouTube channel, and I'll let you know who that is in a moment. Um, Before I let you know who that is, if you want to engage, please feel free to engage with this conversation or in this conversation. Leave your thoughts behind on the bottom. I don't know how long I'll be on. I am going to review a video, but I will. We'll just keep talking. We'll keep this conversation going. So, just FYI, if you have questions or you want to comment, please feel free to do and don't hesitate. These are the kind of conversations we have to have, but we have to have them in the right with the right spirit. We need to listen to one another, excuse me, and even just have a back and forth, right? Like I wouldn't mind chopping it up with this brother or anyone else, really. So let's do that. Let's chop it up. Let's talk. There's a lot going on, and I think in a lot of ways this is all related. But I'll share some more of that a little later. So the video that I'm going to review is by the brother Carlos. Shout out Carlos. If you see this brother, I just want you to know, and I want other people who are watching this too. This isn't like I got beef with Carlos, so I'm coming at him. I never met Carlos. We have mutual friends. I really like Carlos a lot. I do. I've never shared that with him, but I really do like him a lot. I love his spirit, if that makes any sense. So as we are going to briefly review this video, there's a lot that I can resonate with Carlos. And the reason why I'm doing the review is because I want to share some thoughts about something else that has been bothering me that I was reminded of when I saw Carlos's video. So if you are watching this and you share this video, just so everyone knows, Carlos is my homie in the Lord. He's my brother in the Lord. So, and I'm not gonna, I'm not taking no cheap shots at Carlos or anything. We're dealing with ideas here. So definitely feel free to engage with me on anything I say. Anyone. And yeah, man, we'll get a good dialogue going here. So with no further ado, let me play this video. Let me share my screen, and I will share my comments. All right, let's see here. Share my screen. Okay. All righty. So yeah, there we go. Okay, so let me make this screen bigger. Okay, cool. All right, so excuse me. So this is a video that Carlos did, and I would encourage you guys, for real, go subscribe to that brother's channel, man. He's got some really good stuff on music reviews. he's become like a trusted voice in the I'm gonna listen to your album and give an honest critique. And so definitely go subscribe to the brother's channel. It's Mr. Ayo. So definitely go subscribe to the brother's channel. Good stuff, and I always appreciate listening to his reviews. So that being said, let me get right into the video. All right, and I'll share my thoughts. Can you hear that?
I want to talk to you about something real quick.
Hold on.
Hold on. I've kind of voiced my opinion on it vaguely. Definitely nowhere near as much as I have on other issues. This one here, if anything, I've expressed my disgust for what happened to Ahmaud Aubery. In the case dealing with the two gentlemen that shot, two gentlemen that, for lack of better words, chased him down, and then one gentleman shot him. I've expressed my thoughts on it. I don't think I ever called them racist. I'm pretty certain I didn't say that. If I did, forgive me on that, and I'll explain why I asked for that. But I definitely have expressed my disgust.
So let me stop there. That's one thing I appreciate about it. Carlos, to be real, he said, I don't think I ever called him racist, which I appreciate. And if I did, please forgive me. And I think that's good, brother. That's huge. You know, it isn't that we can't be wrong. You know, we are often wrong. But I think one of the things that separates us as Christians, one of the many things that separate us from Christians is that it isn't that we're not ever wrong, but when we're wrong, we humble ourselves, or we ought to humble ourselves. I appreciate that. I don't think I've ever heard him say that it was race related, but he does say something here that I want to comment on.
I'm hurt for this. Ever since it happened, my wife would tell you, and those that know me, that are close to me, will tell you, I have been not depressed, but definitely distraught. I've been definitely just saddened by this, and it's been seen all over my face. Many people like,
all right, so he's been saddened by this, and I agree. I have too. It's, you know, man, somebody died. Someone created in the image of God. Let's not even put race into it, right? Someone who is created in the image of God was murdered, right? Was killed. And that's sad. That really is, man. It's grieving. It's sad. Man, it's, you know, we should pause. And I think, man, in times like this, I think it's important for us to really, and I'm guilty of this too, y'all, where we can become so cold to the barrage of information that we get, and we could miss the importance of stopping and thinking about, wow, this person dead, right? But the thing about it is this: people die every day, and people get murdered every day. White people, black people, Asian people, Latinos, every single day it happens. Now, we would never have known about this situation were it not for the story to be leaked. This happened in February, so the story finally gets leaked, okay? The story gets out, okay? And we hear about it. And you know, there were a lot of murders that took place, I'm sure, between February and now. And many of which we haven't heard about, and many of which we won't hear about, because, and this is my assessment, because there's a lot of information we don't hear about because it's not juicy enough. Okay, it's not juicy enough. And what I mean by that is that the media loves a good, juicy, race baiting story. They do. They just do. And what we have to be careful with as Christians is that we are slow to speak. That was my initial assessment of this whole thing. Now I'm proud of myself, y'all, because in the past, that would not have been my initial. That would not have been my initial assessment. So we have to be slow to speak. We have to listen and look and pray and be patient and wait to see what comes out of the case. So that being said, let me the brother says that he was hurt and
you okay, but definitely distraught. I've been definitely just saddened by this, and it's been seen all over my face. Many people are like, "Yo, you okay?" And
okay, now he's gonna get to it in a second, but I just want to say that. So saddened, yes, because another person has been killed, and again, this didn't have to be the case, right? However you look at it, from whatever perspective, whether you take Ahmaud Aubery's case, or if you take the two individuals who were, or the three individuals who were engaging him, right, and the one who ultimately shot and killed him. This didn't have to be the case, okay? But listen to his reason why.
The reason being, real quick before I get into the situation, I'm just going to break it down for me. I easily could have been him in this situation, because one thing I do, with my wife and kids.
Okay, let's pause there. Let's pause there. So shout out to Carlos for saying that he didn't think it was based on race, and if he said that, he said, "Please forgive me," because I don't think it's that. But then he goes on to say this. And brother, just again, out of love, and I don't want to misrepresent you, so please feel free to respond. I want to rightly represent you, but and I'm gonna let him finish in his context. But one of the concerns I have, and I've seen this isn't the first time. Okay, I've seen this and did not. Excuse me. I'm not saying this is. I'm not saying I've seen this in Carlos. I'm saying that what he just said. And I'll go back right here.
Before I get into the situation, I'm just going to break it down for me. I easily have been definitely just saddened by this.
Saddened.
And it's been seen all over my face. Many people are like, "Yo, you okay?" And the reason being, real quick before I get into the situation, I'm just going to break it down for me. I easily could have been him in this situation because.
Okay, so now, like, how could you easily have been him? He's going to explain here how, but this is what I want to. This is what I want to address. That is something that irks me, and it could just be me. So please comment, let me know. But this is something that irks me. I've seen videos of people post on Instagram and on Facebook saying, "I'm going to go for a jog right now." Black man, right? Black male. I'm going to go for a jog right now. And that normally isn't a problem. But because, in essence, I'm black and I'm jogging, I'm going to get killed. Y'all, stop. Stop. That is suggesting something more than is the case in this story. And we shouldn't, we should just zip our mouth, and we should just be patient to see the conclusion of the matter. Okay? Black people are not just getting shot for going outside and jogging. This man did not just get shot for going outside and jogging. Okay? That's not what happened. Now, I'm not saying that them shooting him was right. I'm not saying any of that. But him going out for a jog, that narrative is false. Okay? It's not true. There was more to the story than that. And again, my point in all this is, as Christians, we just got to be slow to speak. We got to be slow to speak. Because we can easily hop on the narrative that says, that could have been me. I could have been shot. I could have been killed. Anyone could have. If that's what you're going to argue, yeah, then anyone could have. But let's not say that could have been us because, and he didn't specifically say that, but that's where it goes. But let him finish his statement here.
One thing I do with my wife and kids, and sometimes just myself or just with me and the kids or whatever, we drive to the neighborhood. We just drive around and look at stuff. I love my wife. We love driving. We have great conversations while we drive. And so we'll just drive, man. No destination, just drive. Like just
nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that, right? And that isn't what this was, though. Okay, that isn't what this was. And so someone's let's say someone's house in my neighborhood gets robbed and they kill the person at gunpoint. Let's say it was a white guy and an older white lady. Are we gonna say that could have been me? Because, yeah, okay, of course, that could have been me, right? But on what basis could that have been me? Is it just on the basis of, okay, well, that kind of stuff can happen to anyone? Or is it on the basis of, is because I'm black and I'm driving around, or because I'm going for a jog? We got to be careful with how we communicate that. Because the last time I checked, there aren't white people just shooting around. White people aren't just popping off on black people. Okay? When it happens, it gets a lot of media attention. But you know what doesn't get a lot of media attention? You know what doesn't? Black on black crime. Right? And I'm not just saying the color black, right? Not just that, but I'm talking about poverty-stricken areas, right? we're left to rot, as it were, right? Killing ourselves. That doesn't get a lot of media attention because it's not juicy. It's not sexy. Because yeah, they go over there killing themselves. They're ignorant, right? That's the media spin. They're ignorant. They're killing themselves. Da 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 da. And that happens. But we just got to be careful with this. He wasn't just shot for just strolling around doing his own thing. And we're gonna listen to this.
He actually literally, last Friday I think it was, I was off, my wife was off, and filled the tank up, dropped the kids off daycare, and we just drove for like 4 or 5 hours for real, all throughout town and some other towns, and just had a good time. And even in that, we saw homes being built, and I'm real big on babe, I'm gonna stop and see him. I'll quickly go ask the contractor, hey, can I walk through, or what?
Okay, so good. So babe, I'll stop and dream and all that, and that's good. That isn't what he did. He didn't ask the contractor, and there was no contractors there. Okay, again, I'm not saying he deserved to get killed. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying necessarily that the McMichaels were absolutely guiltless or that they shouldn't do. I don't know, honestly. I mean, I have my thoughts that I could share, but I don't know ultimately. But that isn't what he was doing. He wasn't just shooting the breeze, walking, going into now again. Okay, let me say this. Maybe he was just shooting the breeze, right? Maybe the video camera catches him walking as he's approaching this house. But maybe prior to that, he was jogging and he finally stopped there and innocently just went in. But guess what? And Carlos gonna mention this. He's breaking and entering. He didn't break any windows and the garage was open, but he's entering into a facility that is not his and is trespassing. Okay? It's trespassing. Now, I'm not saying that deserved him to get killed. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is to equate his story with just going for a jog to our story for when we just go for a jog, it's not the same situation. There have been, in this case, there were prior calls made at different times within the span of, let's say, 5 to 6 months. So there were repeated cases with allegedly people saying that Aubery was the individual or someone who fit his description. Now, was that the case? We're going to find out. We're going to get more information. And when we get more information, we'll know. But until then, we can't make this hard fast like equation with, well, I'm scared and I'm depressed and I'm sad because what he got killed for, I do all the time, and that could have been me. I don't think that's fair.
Whatever. And even like in his case, even if no one is there, I'm not gonna break the door down, but if the door is like not there, or the door is open or whatever, I'll walk through just to see what's good.
Well, that's trespassing, Carlos. That's trespassing. If the contract is not there and it's private property, someone else's property, and you walk in the door, I'm not saying it's okay, and I'm not saying it's good, but don't be surprised if you get shot. I mean, we got to teach our kids this. And I'm not saying his parents didn't teach him that. Okay, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we got to teach our people this. Right? Listen, the other day, my kids were in the backyard. And I take a break and I go back there and I say, let me see what the kids are up to. And you know what they're doing? They're in the backyard. So my backyard connects to someone else's backyard, and they're in the backyard of someone else's yard. And I give them a lesson of their life. And I said it very sternly. I looked them in the eyes and said, you never do that. But Bobby, we were looking at a gopher hole or something. There was like a huge hole in it. I said, I don't care. They don't get it. They don't understand, but I want them to understand the severity of it on their level. It doesn't matter. That's not your yard. You don't go into someone else's yard. Now it was innocent, right? and it wasn't all up in their yard trespassing and all that. And I did that a lot when I was a kid. I'd cut through my neighbor's yard and cut through the fence and all that. And they would tell me all the time, don't cut through my yard, right? It's trespassing. If you're walking in someone's, now my kids weren't trespassing, it wasn't their property. So, but if you're walking into someone's house, even if the garage is open, and I don't care if it's a construction site, it belongs to someone else and it doesn't belong to you. Again, I'm not saying that that's okay that he got killed because of that. But my point is that we make this guy like a saint prior to his death when no one here is without fault. And we run with the media's narrative as innocent black man just going for a jog, shot by 2 armed white guys. Well, how the heck are you going to paint that differently without it being a race war? Hello. And so Carlos, brother, don't walk into a house that you don't own and not expect there to be repercussions if someone else is there. Like, that's just, and I get it. Carlos is trying to identify himself with the person speaking here, but don't do that, because he was in the wrong for doing that. Okay.
What's going on? And I do it not to steal anything. I do it because I like to dream. I like to envision myself.
But yeah, don't dream in someone else's house. Don't do that. And again, there may be some like hyperbole here. I don't know if Carlos is literally going into people's house. I'm just saying in general, don't go into someone else's house or on their property dreaming. Okay, because that's coveting literally someone else's material stuff. Okay, now I'm not saying that we can't see a property and say, man, I'm gonna work hard to get something like this. I'm not saying that, but going into someone's home without their permission is trespassing, and they don't want to hear I was just dreaming when I was in their house. And again, just so y'all know this, if you're just coming in, you hear my tone. I'm not barking or upset or have any animosity toward my brother Carlos. It's not like that. I'm just passionate about this topic because I think we can do more danger. I think we do more harm than good, even if our motives are right. And I believe I know my brother's motives and his heart is in the right place. And so I'm really just wanting to have like an open conversation about this. So,
of course, it's like $1 million home or something like that. And so at this present moment period in time, I can't afford it, of course. But I like to dream. I envision seeing my kids run around the house and me screaming, hey, sit down. You know what I'm saying? I envision, the wife and I tearing this wall down, painting this at the third. And so I enjoy doing that. So yeah, and then also I work out, and so I do cardio, and so I run, I walk, and I don't know.
Okay. So what's that mean? I mean, yeah, you run, you walk, again, we can do those things, and that isn't why Aubery was killed. Again, not saying that it was right that he was killed. It's sad. It's grieving. And all the parties in this situation are created in the Imago Dei. All of them. All of them. And this is grieving. But let's not misrepresent the story.
I easily could have been this guy, right? So the first video we've seen, right, which everyone has seen, paints the picture of this individual on a stroll. And many people have said, oh, well, he had Timberland boots on, so he couldn't have been going for a walk. I definitely...
So, and I don't know, I think Carlos made this yesterday, if I'm not, it looks like it was nighttime where he's at, so it was last night. So he didn't have Timberland boots on, that's been confirmed. He has sneakers on. But if he had Timberland boots on, that would make it even less likely that he was really jogging. Carlos is going to argue the case that that isn't the case. Like if you have Tim's on, you can go jogging. The only thing is he's an athlete, and you're not going. Working out and bench pressing is different than going for a 3-mile jog. You don't do a 3-mile jog in Tim's. Unless you think I'm disconnected, I don't wear anything other than Tim's. And those things are like weights on your feet. I wear them to church and my feet are tired at the end and I'm just standing and sitting. So you don't go for 3-mile jogs with Tim's on. Now, that's not an argument because that wasn't the case in this situation. He had sneakers on.
Can argue against that. I've worked for a chicken feed mill plant where I wore Timberlands and dark jeans and a company long button-up shirt. I drove the train for them. Had wet soy on me and lime and corn dust and so on and so forth. And I would leave work and go to the gym and work out in that outfit.
Jogging.
Or dust myself off, whatever. But work out in that outfit. Timberland boots on, high-tech boots on. No gym. I don't think I've ever really continuously worn appropriate gym attire when I work out, even to this day. After that, I worked for a company. Worked for Wilson Air Center, and also SCI, which is a security company. And then the company I work for now, I leave work in my work uniform and I go work out.
Sure.
Either treadmill, the bike, the bench press, the whole nine. I'm in that. So my point with that is seeing him running Timberland boots was not shocking to me that a person would work out in some Timberland boots.
So that isn't what happened. And Carlos and I just heard about that today. So I'm not saying that, anyway, that being said, that isn't what happened. He had sneakers on. So which furthers his case. He may very well have been jogging. Okay. He may very well have been jogging.
I do that, so I can vouch for that. That didn't bother me. But it was like I said, so the first video you see him running and you see the truck on the right-hand side. He's on the left-hand side, and you see a gentleman with a shotgun in front of him. And so then you see him, run to the right and try to avoid the person with the shotgun. There's a person on the back of the truck, if I recall correctly. And then you see him kind of like get away in a sense, but then he just lunges right at the person with the shotgun and they're wrestling for the gun, and then it goes off and then goes off again.
And that has been my problem with this so far. I've heard brothers argue that according to God's law, you can't shoot anyone during the day, and those are good arguments. In fact, it was Marcus Pittman on Lawn Prophets who made that argument. Right, according to God's law, they were wrong for shooting him during the day. And almost like a vigilante style, they had their guns out. I would encourage you. In fact, I might even link to that video as well as this one in the on the YouTube channel. So that's good. I can see that, them being in the wrong for having their guns out and kind of like we want to talk to you. I see that. Okay. That being said, and then Marcus Pittman also said that at that point, this individual, Aubery, had the right to defend himself, right? So my initial assessment is that it was Aubery who lunged at the McMichaels. If I'm not saying that correctly, please forgive me. But the individual who had the shotgun, he rushed him. Now, Marcus Pittman says that in that case, that's justifiable because he's defending himself. I don't know about that. I don't. Because you could have easily ran away. You could have gone in a different direction. Like instead of turning left where the man with the shotgun was, you go straight. Because we don't know, if he would have kept running, he would have got shot. We don't know that. Right? If he would have kept running straight or made a right, instead of making a left and lunging at a man with a shotgun, he may have been alive today. Maybe not. We don't know, right? We don't know.
And I believe it was like ended up being 3 shots, and then the young man is gone. And so the first initial argument was basically the young man was going for a drive. These 2 white guys saw him and just assumed he had stole something, and they jumped in their vehicle and they chased behind him, and then shoot him, he dies. So that was,
and that isn't what happened, and he's not saying that necessarily is what happened. He's just saying that was the first story.
Was the cry from everyone. But recently 2 more videos have surfaced. One from a home directly across the street from the house that was being constructed on, and then another video of the actual inside of that house, right?
Now, let me make a comment here. I think it was Chai Brown from Consider Culture, and what's the brother's name? The detective. What's his name? A former detective. Hold on a second. I'll pull him up real quick. Hold on a second. Tatum. What is that? Hold on. I think it's B. Tatum Brandon. Both. So Consider Culture. They make he says this, that the McMichael, the father was a former kind of detective in the area, former cop. And the person who owned the house that was under construction was an elderly person. I guess this information came out. You can fact check me. This is kind of what I'm hearing, so I'm just communicating this to you. This person was an elderly person who was not living there, and Chai Brown makes the argument that it could very well have been, and again, we'll come to know more information as this goes on, that the McMichael, right? This will be interesting, and I'm interested to see what your thoughts are on this, but this will be interesting. He makes the statement, Chai Brown on Consider Culture, that the older man who was living, the older man whose this property belonged to, had this house under construction. He could have very easily had the McMichaels keep an eye on the property to survey the house. Okay. And he also made the argument that this community seemed to have a good synchronized system of neighborhood watch. There had been police reports of different people breaking and entering. There was a gun that was stolen out of one of the McMichael's car, and so they kind of like banned this community, fight against crime kind of thing and all that. So that all will come out, right? That all will come out. It could be, and I don't know, but it could be that McMichaels actually witnessed this man go into the house because he had access to the video footage. I don't know. We'll find out. Okay? But it wasn't like the original narrative. It wasn't like this young man was just, innocently strolling in the area. Now, he was strolling in the area, but now that he trespassed, and if you see, there's an individual who comes up, sees him, and says, "Hey," and he starts bolting. Moments later is when he's killed. Couple minutes later, which again is absolutely tragic. Could you imagine? You're minutes away from your last breath. Wow, minutes away from your last breath. And if anything, this is something that I want to drive home. Whether you agree with me or not on my assessment or perspective on this whole thing, one thing is for certain, is that one day you will breathe your last breath and you will stand before the God of all creation, and you don't know when that time is. So the scriptures implore you to turn from your sin now and put your faith and trust in Christ. And your death and my death could be as a legitimate cause of unjust, right? Somebody murdering you or me and doing so falsely, and they may or may not receive justice in this life through the legal system, through the court system. But brothers and sisters, friends and family, everyone who's watching, know for certain that one day you will stand before the holy, righteous judge of all creation. And that's the saddest thing of this whole thing. Not that he's dead, and that is sad. Not that the McMichaels, whether guilty or innocent, lives are going to be impactfully changed from this point on. The thing that's going to be the thing that's the saddest is that this young man is in eternity, and he may or may not know Christ. And if he knows Christ, hallelujah, his fate, whether he gets justice on earth, whether his family gets justice here on earth or not, he's safe and secure in Christ. But if he's not, then he's going to await the judgment of God, the second judgment of God, the judgment of God when he stands before Christ. That's the saddest part. And so McMike, what he said, Brother Jamal says here, pull this up real quick. He says, McMichael was the eyewitness to the trespass, to be fair. Yep. So McMichael, and I don't know that. And maybe, I don't know if he was, though, because there was another individual who pulled up the phone who saw him. And I don't think that was McMichael. There were several calls that came in. It came from that one man who was by the tree. He said, hey. And as soon as he said, hey, Aubery ran. Okay. And then it seems to be that there was another call that came in from McMichael. Okay. And in that situation, they said, there's a man running. And then he said, well, what did he commit? What did he do? Now, again, all this is happening very quickly. All this is happening very fast. So when he said, what did he do? In his mind, and I'm not saying he's right, but in his mind, he's probably like, man, this kid is back again, up to no good. And this time he went inside so-and-so's house again because I saw it. Maybe not. Maybe he had access to the video coverage. I don't know. We're going to find out more information. Okay. I don't know, but maybe that was his case. And so he said, man, we're going to get him this time. And we're going to get him this time means not kill him. I don't believe that was their intention to kill the black guy. I don't think that was their intention. Okay. Again, McMichael was a former police officer. And I'm not saying that police officers aren't that just because you're a police officer means you're morally neutral. I'm not saying that. But the man, for the most part, you would hope that he obviously knows the laws and would want to uphold justice and so on and so forth, right? So that being said, he sees this young man running, which, again, fathers, when you teach our children, if you ain't do nothing, don't run. Don't run. Don't go onto somebody else's property that's not yours, and don't run. What you running for? Now, again, could have been scared. We're humans, right? Could have been like, dang, and straight bolting, right? He could have been like, dang, they got me. I got to get out because I was up to no good. Or, dang, I slipped up and I was on this property and I shouldn't have been here. And this man caught me looking. And so now I got to get out before it escalates. I don't know. Right? We don't know. Jamal says, the surveillance footage from the house across the street shows McMichael making the call to the police. The recording is online now. I don't know. Maybe, yeah, I know. I could be wrong. But I don't think that is the case. I don't think the guy who was standing across the street was McMichael who made the call. Again, it could be. And I stand to reason if that is the case. From what I'm hearing, that was a separate individual. But again, I'd love to hear your thoughts when you do. I know Brother Jamal Bandy from Prescribed Truth is also going to be dealing with this from his perspective. And if you had to listen to me or Jamal talk about this, I'd say go listen to Jamal. I think he does a great job on topics like this. I'm just sharing my thoughts on this based on my brother's take here. So fathers, we need to teach our children, okay? And again, I'm not making any judgments on, Aubery's family or parent or whatever. I'm just saying in general, making an application is that fathers, we need to teach our children. Number one, don't trespass. Number two, if you didn't commit a crime, don't run. Okay. And now I don't think he committed a crime. Okay. I don't think, there were no victims left behind. I don't think he committed a crime. Now he was on somebody else's property. He shouldn't have been there. Now they may call that trespassing. I don't think he committed a crime. I don't. Okay. And that's why I think a lot of this has to do with not just the moment, which again, in the moment, there's a lot of emotions going on. The adrenaline is flowing, right? There's a time, cops are called. There's a lot going on here, and in that time, things move very quickly. And so this is why I don't want to conclude. I don't want to make any conclusions based on race. And again, I'm not saying that that's what Carlos is outrightly doing. I think he runs into a dangerous situation when he alludes to it later, talking about how he's afraid to go for a walk. Brother, if you're not trespassing on someone else's property and you are not fleeing from the scene, then you should be perfectly okay with being a black man and driving. Now, I'm not going to be ignorant and say being black and going into some areas isn't probably going to cost you your life, right? If you go into some really, really, really back of the wood places, and these type of places that people warn you don't go back there certain time of the day, you probably should listen to them, right? And not just a black person, I'm talking about like a Latino as well. And I would do well not to go into certain areas at a certain point in time. But guess what? There's some places that, as a person of color, that I can't go into as in another area of people of predominantly, of color, right? And vice versa. If some white people came into some hoods, into some areas, guess what? Free game. Okay, but I don't think that's the case most of the time. Okay, now there are some places and locations you want to be wise and use wisdom in going in, right? So that's enough being said there.
The one inside the house is only like 7 seconds long, maybe 10, but very, very short. And so let me paint the picture. I'm not going to put it up on this video here only because I've had my page demonetized before, and I don't know the rules when it comes to a lot of these things. So I don't want to put the video up and then they, take my video down or, punish me or whatever like that. So walking down the street, and the video is from home across the street from it, and it's kind of at a bad angle. You really can't see him. Honestly, if it's not zoomed in on. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. One could make the case that it's not him. I don't know.
It was him. Again, I'm not saying that it was okay that he was killed, but it was him. And you look at, again, I'm gonna post this on my YouTube channel, but if you look at Consider Culture, Chad Brown again, he looks at the time on the top left-hand side, and you see the time ratio between when he's leaving, running out of the house, and in the direction he's going in. He looks at this, he does a zoom out on the street and where he left from and where he ends up ultimately getting killed at. It was him.
But they had to be a fight, but they could probably make that case. Anyways, or they may say it, but I would then question. Anyways, and so you see the young man. We're going to say it's Ahmaud. So you see Ahmaud walk through the neighborhood, and there is a porta potty, a red porta potty in the front yard, indicating that there is construction being done on this home. So it's not, just like Billy Bob or Susie Q's home, and he just breaks in. No, it's an actual home.
It is though. It is Billy Bob's home. It's just not completed. Billy Bob owns it. Like if I purchase a plot of land and there's nothing on the land and you're on it, you're trespassing my property. In this case, there was something on it. It was a home. Trespassing. And this is what bugs me, is that we want to make this look like the most innocent as being, again, that maybe he was just naive. Maybe, right? And again, fathers, we need to teach our children. Pay attention. You don't be walking up in somebody's property. You don't be going into somebody's house. I don't care if nobody lives there. I don't care if you was just dreaming. I don't care if you was just sightseeing. That is not your property. And the next time you do that, son, that might get you killed. Fathers need to tell their children that. Don't be stupid. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. Now, I don't know. I'm not saying he didn't have a father. I'm not saying that he had bad parents. I don't know that. I'm just saying we can't water this down like, he just innocently walked. Son is trespassing.
Being worked on. There's a construction crew. They got a porta potty out front. So you see him walking through the garage. Garage is up. It's open because it's being worked on. So you see him.
That isn't an excuse to walk into someone else's yard. I don't care if my front door is open. You don't come inside my house. I don't care if you even think that I'm not home. You don't come inside my house.
Walk through the garage. You don't see anything else he does. You see him walk through the garage, but then you see him come back out, and then you see him kind of hit the corner, and he goes in through the front door. Now, mind you, once again, it's being worked on, so there's no actual door closed. No, it's not bolted. It doesn't have a little gray little lock on it. You know that is.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Again, it doesn't matter. And the reason why I'm harping on this is because these talking points right here is the very thing that people, unlike Carlos, okay, and I'm not going to accuse him of this, but unlike Carlos, people who want to really paint the narrative, because again, Carlos said at the beginning of this video that he doesn't think it's about race. Okay, he doesn't think about race. So I'm giving the benefit of the doubt, okay? But for those of you who do think it's about race, these talking points that my brother uses are the very thing that they use to justify. And say, see, it was because he was racist. The boy ain't do nothing. He was innocent. He just walked into someone else's house. He just ran away with somebody else. No, he trespassed. He trespassed.
Completed or whatever that a realtor has to unlock. It's not one of those. It's just open. And so that's the first video. So the second video shows him actually walking into the residence, and he just stands there. He kind of just looks around. That's all you see him doing. You don't see him do anything else. It's only 10 seconds. But after that, going back to the first video, so it goes first video, second video, back to first video. Well, okay, the first video of the new two, right? So the new we'll say the second video, then the third video. So second video is him walking the neighborhood, past the porta potty, into the garage, then into the front house. And the third video is him looking around, just admiring pretty much what he's looking. Maybe he's like me, he's just dreaming. Like, wow.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't go on to somebody else's property without their permission and dream. Because it might get you killed. It might get you killed. And I'm not making light of this. I'm not trying to be cold-hearted. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just being real. I'm being honest, y'all. We got to teach our children, son, don't be going on to anyone else's property without their permission and just dream. You can't do that. Don't do that. Son, especially, right? Okay, if you want to use the race thing, especially because you black. Okay? My dad used to tell me. My dad used to tell me a lot of things. My dad used to tell me a lot of things. He said, and I grew up arguing with my dad about these kind of points, these conversations, because I always try to give people the benefit of the doubt. I was always like that. My dad is straight up say it. My dad, now mind you, my dad was black. Okay, my stepdad. He raised me since I was 3. My stepdad, and I won't use the wordage, but he'd say, um, he would say, look, you got to be careful when you're dealing with white people. You gotta be careful when you're dealing with white people. Okay, now I'm not black, but I knew what my dad was saying. I grew up in a predominantly black community, mainly Caribbean. Um, of Caribbean, Salvadorian. I think I was probably one of the handful of Puerto Ricans in the area. Um, Maybe like 1% white. I think I knew like 4 white people. 2 of them were hood. One of them was gothic. You know what I'm saying? Like, um, and that was it. And but my dad would say you can't trust white people. Now I don't agree with that. I didn't agree with it then. But what my dad did was he was keeping it real with me based off his experience, which was completely different from mine. He was sharing something with me that he thought I needed to know to prepare my mind on how to think when I'm out. Okay. Now there was a let me just segue real quick. When I was in high school, I had trespassed onto someone's property. In fact, there was an abandoned house, and this is in fact it's pretty interesting. I was just thinking about this earlier today. I let's see here. I was I was probably in like 11th grade, and by this time I was wayward, smoking weed, cutting class. Yeah, right. So we cut school on our way back home. But on our way back home, there was this house that was abandoned, and we go in there and we smoke weed. And we had done that before, didn't get caught. Well, we did it again, and this time, someone called the cops on us. They were waiting for us. They had seen us before. Okay. Now, mind you, this wasn't a white area. Okay. I consider it, say, middle class area, but it wasn't white. Wasn't white. Upper to middle class. Wasn't a white area though. Wasn't white people that lived there. And we smoking weed, we drinking. I say about 10 minutes in, the police come. The police come, and we bolt, and they say, "Stop right there, stop!" And we stop. And one of my friends got away. He wanted us to say who he was, and ain't no snitch, so I ain't say nothing. And so the cop sits us down, and I just remember this, man. It's funny. I remember this. The cop pulls us over, and we sit down. He says, "Sit on the ground." So we sit on the ground, and I don't know if this guy was a Christian or not, but he basically starts asking us questions about what we're gonna do with our life. What are you doing with your life? And I remember being scared, sitting there, being scared because I knew better. My dad told me about this. My dad told me about it. Hey, listen, I'm being a fool, right? It could have cost me my life. Not because I was Hispanic, because I was trespassing and I ran away. Okay? So the cop sits us down, he starts asking us, what you gonna do with your life? And I remember the 2 other people, I think it was like 4 of us, 2 of them got away. The other 2 that was there, it might have been 3 of us that were left behind. One of them got away. Um, you know, he said, and I remember the other 2, when the police officer asked what you gonna do with your life, they kind of was like, they didn't want to, and I was scared. And I said, I want to be a writer. I want to, I want to be a writer, and it's like, then do, I forget exactly what he said, but he basically like, well, then do that. I don't want to see you over here again. The next time I see you over here, you're going to get arrested for trespassing, da, 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 da. And guess what? Never did it again. Now, I wish I could tell you that I never got into trouble again. That wasn't the case. My point is we got to teach our young people We got to teach our young people, man. This young man is dead. And again, we will find out more information. And he does not have to be dead. And I feel, Carlos, man, at the end of this, there's a point in here, man, where he just gets emotional. And I feel you, bro. I feel you, man. I don't have any words. It's heartbreaking, man. It's heartbreaking, but we gotta be careful, man, with the language we use to give off any kind of feeling that you know that I should be brokenhearted because that could be me because I like to go jogging too. That isn't what happened here. It wasn't just like he was just this random innocent person just jogging and white people chased him down because he was black and jogging. And that's what I'm seeing. I'm not saying that's what I'm seeing necessarily from Carlos, but that's what I'm seeing. I'm black and I'm going to go for a jog. And normally that wouldn't be an issue. But since the Arbery case, I feel the need that I need to announce that just in case. Stop. Because that's exactly what the liberal media wants us to do, especially as Christians. We cannot be that way. We got to look at the facts, deal with them on that basis, and if anything, let's talk about the problems within our laws. Let's talk about that. We want to have a conversation about the open carry, all that. We could have a conversation about that. The citizens arrested. We can have a conversation about that. But let's not make this a racial narrative.
I think he's a young man, so maybe one day type ordeal. And then back to the second video, the neighbor across on the left side of the home that's videotaping, he or she, now that I can't tell, comes out and it's stated or it's believed that they screamed, "Hey," and then he comes running out. Okay. He's running now. So now he's running. So this then leads us back to the first video. So first video, of course, he's running. He gets cut off. Wrestle, fight. Boom, boom. No longer here. That's it. None of those videos showed a lot of things weren't shown in those videos, right? Who knows? More videos may surface later. I don't know, but something's for certain. We didn't see him steal anything.
He didn't steal anything, but he did trespass.
Okay. We didn't see him breaking and entering.
He did. He didn't break anything, but he entered into a home that was not his. That's trespassing.
Many would say that it's a resident. And so with it being a resident, I've heard that Georgia law states that even though it's not necessarily someone actually living there, the fact that it's a home, not just a foundation, it's a home, although the foundation on the inside is messed up, or the
doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if the foundation or the inside is messed up. Doesn't matter, son. Son, I don't want to hear those excuses. Talking to my children. Son, I don't want to hear it. My kids the other day, they're in the backyard, they're looking at this gopher hole, and they say, "Papi, we're just looking at it." I don't care. Son, you don't go into someone else's yard without their permission. Okay? And I wasn't mean-spirited to my children or anything like that. I just explained to them, you can't do that, son. Can't do that, Papa, because I know that you have innocent intentions, right? Like you're being innocent. You're innocently going into this yard because you're curious about this gopher hole. But son, how someone else interprets your actions may be completely different, and it may cost you your very life. That's what we got to teach our children. Robert says, actually, let me pull it up here real quick. Actually, state by state, there are many reasons to walk onto a construction site. And Robert says, I do it all the time when looking at a new home build. Yeah, but you're speaking from the perspective of someone who does it when you're doing a new home build. Um, this young man is doing it as someone from, and again, we're going to find out more information. If he is the one, again, all this is contingent on if and not knowing all the information. But if he is one of the people that they assumed to be trespassing and vandalizing, and again, maybe he wasn't. Maybe there was another young black man, and to them, all black people look alike, right? Okay, but if he was, and if and because of all that, I'm not saying it's right, but that intensified the situation. Okay, and again, you say state by state. I don't know. Is that the case in Georgia? I don't know. Apparently, it something was. They considered it to be suspicious if somebody come up and call of they pull up and they say hey, and they get on the phone. Something was up. I don't know. I don't know. So you might be onto something. Um, Enter owner's land or property without permission. Right. To trespass. Um, so 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 Georgia considers this a misdemeanor. Um, yeah. So again, he's trespassing. It's not. It's not. He's not a construction worker. He's not one of the construct. Now again, maybe. Hey. Maybe it'll come out that he actually. What about this? Maybe what? What if he was one of the? What if he was one of the workers on site? And it was his day off and he just wanted to go visit to see how things were looking. I don't know. I have no idea. But if that wasn't the case, or even if that was the case, he shouldn't have been there when he's not working because no one else was there. So anyway, play a couple more minutes here and then we'll put it to an end.
The structure inside is messed up because it's being built. Many have said that that's considered in Georgia a residence, so he technically sort of kind of, I guess, I don't know, broke in.
He did.
I don't agree with that, but I'm not a lawyer. But
I mean, you don't got to be a lawyer. Real simple. Is this your property? If it's not, then you shouldn't be on the premises. Even if Robert and I know, brother. So Robert says, I wish I could type more. And again, I'm not speaking from any I'm not speaking from any authoritative position. Like I'm a lawyer or I'm a construction worker. I don't know any of that, right? I don't. Most of the information I'm getting, I'm hearing it from different sources. I'm reading some of the same, articles and seeing some of the same report. My whole point in all this was we should be slow to assume that any of this was on the basis of race. Okay? That was my whole point in all this.
But on the real, he didn't break into the home as far as kick window down, door down, whatever. And in the video, like I said, although it's only 10 seconds, we see him just looking around. You know what I'm saying? And then shortly after that, we see him running out because someone screams, "Hey!"
And that's the thing. The McMichaels didn't shoot him because he was looking around in the house. He ended up ultimately getting shot is because they were in a scuffle with him. And in the scuffle, 3 shots are made. One goes through his hand, the other they don't know, and the other one it goes between his chest, which is the one that ultimately killed him. So,
hey, maybe he was just scared, nervous. I don't know, but he leaves, and so we don't see him steal anything. We don't see him technically committing a crime of any sort. We also don't. Well, okay, let me say this here. So in Georgia, there's a law the I think it's nationwide probably, but there's a law about citizens arrest, which the two men are indicating that's what they did, right? Now here's what I found out. I just had a meeting with
I'm gonna let me pull up this comment real quick. Robert says, my comments were not related to the case per se, but reason on why someone would do that, which is considered a normal behavior. Yeah, no, I hear you, brother. I do. And then Jamal says, I used to do the same thing when I was a kid. Right. And again, that's let's say that best case scenario, he was just innocently, and again, I think it's to come out more information, right? Let's say best case scenario, he was innocently, looking at that, right? And maybe he was legitimately scared when somebody saw him and he ran, There's no legitimate, harm in, I mean, that's just a natural reaction, right? Dang, I got caught, run, I used to do that when I was a kid. We used to call it dipsy doorbell, knocking on people's door and running, right? We do that all the time. That was a good game, boy. Whoo, that was fun. But anyway, right? So we do that, right? And kids do things like that. Again, this wasn't just a kid; he was a young man, and it's unfortunate. It really is. It really, really is.
a great group of individuals, and is for work, and so retired cops, retired federal agents, and so they know the law. A citizen's arrest works this way here. If I happen to see Billy Bob, Susie Q, whoever, whatever, break into a home and walk out of the home with a lamp or TV or whatever, right? I witnessed the break-in, and then I witnessed the person walking out the house with X, Y, and Z. I then, because I witnessed it, I then can say, "Hey, you," and then hold them, or technically, quote unquote, arrest them, hold them in place as the cops get there, because I personally witnessed that.
Now we don't know if they didn't personally witness it. That we'll see that. We'll find out more information. They may have seen it. They may have seen it. We don't know. That information will come out.
Now, if next door neighbor person sees this person do that, and then they say, "Hey, now mind you, I don't see it," and they say, "Carlos, go get him because he did X, Y, and Z." I can't hold that person's citizen's arrest because I didn't see that person do that, right?
I agree. That's true. Yeah, you can't do that. And again, we don't know if that is necessarily the case. That's what we were told from the media. Mind you, the same media that loves to take these stories and make it about race. They love to make these stories about race. And so as Christians, we need to be slow in believing anything, any kind of narrative the media wants to twist.
I didn't witness that. As it was said in the meeting, the person who's saying, "Hey, he or she did that," then make that person go get him, make that person go tackle that person. I'm not going to do it. I didn't see it. I didn't visually see the person do this, so I can't really do anything about it. And so I don't think they'll get off on the citizen arrest thing because they weren't the ones that witnessed it. The neighbor witnessed it, and the neighbor, how it looked to me, right? So.
And I think he's going to talk about this, but we don't even know if they were necessarily making a citizen's arrest. We don't know that. We don't, because it didn't play out, right? We don't know that. They may have, because they already called the cops, and they may have wanted to prolong him, say, "Son, what you doing over here? We saw you, or we heard whatever, that you were over there at that house. Now it's not safe for you to do that. You can't be around here. We've been having people breaking into houses, and I just, we ended up calling the cops." Now all that could have happened. They could have just been, and you'll see in the video footage that not long after he was killed, did the cops show up. You see it in the surveillance camera, the car speeding by, right? So they could have, we don't know, they could have just wanted to talk with him. Now, they were in their realm to have their guns out. Now, again, maybe they just wanted to scare him, okay? Or let him know this is serious. Did they need to have their guns out? They weren't. They didn't need to have their guns out. They weren't breaking the law by having their gun out. Although I know, again, Marcus Pittman argues that there was a sense of vigilantism, and you can argue that. And again, I don't know. I just don't. I honestly don't know. Was it right for him to charge them? Some say yes, he was defending himself. I say no. I didn't do nothing wrong. He didn't point the gun at him. It wasn't like he was like saw him running down the block in their direction and he had the gun pointed at him. And if it was a matter of racism, he would have popped him off right there. I don't know. I don't know.
As you know, the videos are shaky. It looked to me as if the neighbor saw him, screamed, "Hey!" He starts running, and then the neighbor makes a call up ahead and says pretty much, probably made a description, black male, shorts, boots, whatever, running your way. He was inside the house, and then they get in their vehicles and then they cut him off up front. I don't believe, from what I see in the videos, that it's the same person. That person jumped in their vehicle, got his son, and then they drove past him, and because it don't make sense. Like you drive past him as far as you did just to stop, and then he just kept going. I don't think that's what the case. I think this is secondhand information, and so I don't see them getting off on that. But I have to be honest and say this here: I do see them getting off this case.
Okay, let's stop there. And I think that's an important point right there, Carlos. And I appreciate I'm gonna let him finish his statement there, but I think that's important. People, we need to prepare our hearts and our minds, because most likely they're not going to do any jail time. They're most likely, whether you agree or not. I'm not saying that I think that's the right thing or wrong thing. I don't know, honestly. I don't. I'm listening. I'm learning. I'm asking. I'm looking. I'm thinking. I'm assessing. I'm looking at the scriptures, right? And again, I would encourage you, listen to Mark Pittman's Law and Prophets. Did a really good job. I need to finish it. In fact, I listened to most of it. Great. But we don't know. But we need to prepare our hearts, because most likely they're going to get off. And what's most likely going to happen when they get off is that there's going to be rioting in the streets. No justice. What's the saying? I forget it. Yeah, I know what the one I'm talking about. Most likely there's going to be rioting in the streets. And we as Christians need to have an answer for that. We need to have an answer for that. Right? We need to prepare our minds and our hearts, because it's coming again. I could be wrong. I hope I am. I hope there isn't rioting. I hope that people aren't getting killed as a result of this, especially with all that's taking place with the COVID-19 and how, in many ways, that has been, misrepresented by the media and used as a weapon in many ways. And I'm gonna say enough about that. But this is a mess. It's a mess. No justice, no peace. Thank you. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. I don't know. There's going to be an uproar, and I believe that these guys are going to get off. So I want to hear your comments. Let me know. I'm going to let Carlos finish, get the last word, and then we will end.
Or if not getting off, it's definitely a slap on the wrist. What we would call a slap on the wrist. And here's why.
Now, mind you here, then, regardless of how this turned out, they're not just going to get a slap on the wrist. Their addresses, their home address was given. So people have already been protesting outside their home in that neighborhood. Their lives are forever changed. Okay? Their lives are forever changed. And so what's going to happen if they are exonerated, or if they are not seen as guilty, is it going to be protesting? No justice, no peace. It's going to be a problem. It's going to go away, right? It always does, and something else will happen, and race will be the main reason why, and we'll just repeat all this again. And so yeah, there's not going to be a slap on the wrist for these guys.
Another thing, real quick. I'm gonna get yelled at about this. I know I am, and that's fine. I can take it. Just don't call me no names, and if you do, come say it to my face. But I can't say this is a racial thing. I can't. Only reason why I can't because I don't know the individuals personally, nor do I know anything about them.
And I appreciate that, Carlos. That's real. That's real. That's it. That's it. So all y'all who's making these videos talking about I went jogging today as a black man and I'm alive, cut it out. I mean, you can do what you want. I'm not saying you can't do what you want. You're going to do what you want. We all are, right? But what I'm saying is, like, stop twisting that Black Lives Matters narrative. Stop. Young man got killed. It's unfortunate. He should not be dead. We're going to find out more information. We'll see what happened. But, like, stop. And again, I'm not saying that there aren't or has never been black people getting killed and shot because of their color. I'm not saying that either. But this case, we just love to like associate ourselves with something. And again, I'm not saying maybe it was racially motivated. We're gonna find out, and maybe we don't find out, right? Because in order for you to assume that someone is racist, what they did was racially motivated, you'd have to know their heart, or there has to be evidence based on their actions to prove the intention and motives of their heart.
All you see is the clip of them with the shotguns, and then the Russell, boom. It could come out later on that he's what, the grand wizard of the KKK or whatever. It could be. He could really be. It could come out that for years, whatever he's doing in the family, he just could wait for a moment to bust a cap in a dude. That could be. But then again, he could be married to a black woman. You know what I'm saying? He could, have a serious case of jungle fever. I mean, he could be, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know enough about them to give the indication that this was a racially driven shooting murder. I can't go that route. I just can't. There's not enough information that I've seen that proves that, right? But the reason why I say they're probably gonna get off on this is because Georgia is a carry state, man. I wouldn't, but I literally could take a shotgun. A lawyer. This is just from what I've seen. Legally, right? I don't know. Outside of using the citizens arrest thing, because they didn't witness it.
We don't know.
Outside of that, I don't see. And if I'm wrong, please correct me. Because like I said, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know everything. There's a lot I don't know. I'm researching like y'all researching and looking like y'all looking. And I could have missed something. I'm dead serious. Don't try to email up in the comment section. Just be straight. So, this is what you missed. And then point me directly. And if you're right, then I'll rock with that.
Yeah.
But I don't see legally what they themselves did wrong from the court of law standpoint, right? They were able to. They're legally able to hold their guns. They're legally able to have them in their car. Like I said, I could walk into a MAPCO with my shotgun over my shoulder and nothing. What? I have a warrant for this. This state where said I can carry this gun. Maybe not a shotgun. Let's just say a 9mm, whatever. I can have it in my hand. I can have it fully cocked, ready to go, whatever. But nevertheless, though, I legally can have this. But here's where I'm at with it. That was just ignorant.
Let me let him finish.
That was just dumb. That was just a dumb decision.
And so here, I tend to agree with you here. Um, you know, I think again, everything's happening so fast. And I know that we think we would do different given a situation. I know that we, can just have a perfect knowledge and step back and see something after the matter and say, well, how could they do this or why did they do that, as if we wouldn't do that. Okay, just like people who think that if they were Adam, they wouldn't have sinned. Okay. Um, and so I agree. I think, man, they didn't need to have their guns out. You know what I'm saying? Like, just because they could have their guns out doesn't mean they needed to have their guns out. And the same thing for, Arbery. Just because let's assume he didn't do anything in this house, okay? He didn't have to run. He didn't have to, you know, do without. He didn't have to run from the situation from the house. If he didn't do anything wrong, he didn't have to run. So all this is happening so quickly. And again, my whole point is all this is we got to be slow. We got to listen. We got to pay attention. We got to think. We can't be quick to just jump on the side, especially because of the color of a person's skin. Let me put two things up because I don't. Robert put he said, for example, I am the owner of my home while it was being built. Prospective home owners considering the buyer I used could come on the property while and built and considered trespassing because it was not being dwelled in. Yeah, and then Robert goes on to say he was in Texas. Again, all this in context. Apparently, there were different trespassing or vandalism and robbery situations in this community, and so now, and it may or may not have been by the same individual, and now they see this person who either fits the description or they think that fits the description. They say, hey, and he runs, so that doesn't look good. He runs from the situation, and it just escalates from there. And he wasn't a home buyer, right? I mean, like, you can tell, and it's not because he's black, but you can tell if somebody is like looking to buy the home, right? Because there would be some kind of notice that you give to someone. You just don't show up to someone's home, right? But let's just say there isn't any kind of notice, and you just show up. He wasn't a homeowner. Like, excuse me, he wasn't purchasing the home. He wasn't looking at the house to buy it, right? That wasn't the case. Now maybe he was just innocently looking around and just mad tired and just slowed down and says, "Oh, it's not. Well, this garage is open." Looks in and peeks in, and I did that before. I shared that story before. I wasn't just looking around. I was getting high, someone else's property, but Robert goes on. Only carry in GA requires you to display and open carry loaded shotguns. And then Robert again says, oh, that was the same comment, sorry. He says, a shotgun loaded in GA is required to be displayed and held a certain way. Yep. Not what I was saying. Oh, I apologize, brother. I'm sorry, man. I'm missing you, bro. Oh, man. These things are hard, man, when you're interacting with people, because I don't want to misrepresent. Same thing, man, Carlos, bro. If you feel like I misrepresented you at any point, please feel free to get back at me, or make a video like this. Please feel free. And the same for you, Robert. If I'm misrepresenting you, please forgive me. That's not my intention, brother. So, man. Again, let me end it here, and then we'll close. I apologize for this being so long. I did not intend it to be this long, but it is what it is. For those of you who watched this so far, thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts. Man, this is heartbreaking, y'all. This is heartbreaking. This is ugly. And again, man, we live in a broken world. It's just broken and ugly, man. And Christ is the only one. Christ is the only one that can bring restoration. Christ is the only one that can bring true freedom. Christ is the only one that can truly satisfy. So I implore you to look to Christ. Turn to Christ. Trust in Christ. And again, I'm not saying we don't seek for justice. We don't seek to make things right that are wrong on earth. I'm not saying that at all. I'm not trying to spiritualize it or make it pietistic. I'm not saying that. I'm just, with all that was said, with that, turn to Christ. Look to Christ. Anyway, love y'all. Thank you for your time. Grace and peace.